Welcome to the Alternative Hit Parade with your host, Evan O'Kelly.
Hello and welcome once again to the Thomas House and the Alternative Hit Parade podcast. Tonight's guests are two friends of mine, and when people talk about great Irish bands down through the years, some will talk about Tin Lizzy and Horselips and U2 and the Cranberries and people like that. For me, it will always have to be SAC. We have John Brayton and Martin McCann, the duo, the songwriting duo, singer and guitarist from the legendary and one of my favourite Irish bands, SAC. How are you doing, guys?
How are you, Kev?
All right, Kev.
We'll start a little bit about Lord John Whitejohn. I suppose that's where the story has to really begin, doesn't it? That was the first band, and I suppose SAC came out with the ashes of that. Would that be true, or is that a little bit of a misconception?
Yeah, no, the first band was called Dutch Interior.
Right.
And I think we might go back to that name, Kev. Anyway, yes, Lord John White formed 84, I'd say.
Right.
Eric Finn, first lead singer. And he started missing a few gigs. Then we...
Oh, did he miss a few gigs?
Yeah, or rehearsals or something.
Ah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So you gave him the heave-ho, did you?
No, well, you know what happened was that we came across this other fella here in a band, Aiken Drum, and then we got chatting, and I woke up one morning, me and Tony shared the same bedroom, you know, and I woke up one morning and there was this fella in the middle on the floor. They'd been out at the House Martins gig up in the Olympic Ballroom, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so Tony got chatting, and you know, Tony can't go to the shops on his own. Let's have a posse with him.
Yeah.
So he's like, come on back to my gaff and whatever. So Martin ended up back in our house, and then we all became great friends then. And then I was kind of changing songwriting kind of styles then, getting more like the Day were out then and stuff like that, and just changing slightly. I was getting into Perubu and Captain Beefheart and stuff like that, and I'd written a few songs that weren't really Lord John White songs. So I said to Martin, do you want to sing them? So we had a rehearsal one day without our singer, and Martin sang, and it was just, but he sang some of the Lord John White songs, and it's just like, for feck's sake, good luck. He just killed it. So that was that. So he was like, in, other fella out, and the began there. So
so what year was that, John?
About 87, I think, Martin, was it?
Yeah, I'm looking at this photograph on my phone. I think it must have been around there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we did we had a song called Kill the One You Love that was on a soundtrack from an Irish gangster movie. It was one of the first kind of home produced Irish movies called The Courier. Gabriel Byrne was in it. And there was Elvis Costello done all the incidental music, and U2, Hot House Flowers, and you know, it was quite a good good lineup, you know. And their song was the first song on the movie, and it's Dave Fanning kind of introducing the song as the camera kind of goes over the Liffey and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the film wasn't great, you know, but it got us a bit of notice, and we started kind of getting a few kind of calls from interested companies or whatever. And then that was the end of 87. And then in 88, we left our jobs to kind of go full-time in the music industry. And we played a gig in Cork one night, and we had a very bad crash. That was March 88. So I came out the worst, and I was in hospital for a long time. And so it was nearly a year probably before we kind of were able to resume. We did some gigs. I remember, like, I was playing in the wheelchair and stuff like that.
Right.
But then we we changed. Kieran Owens, who was managing Sinead O'Connor and Hinterland and Cattell Koenig, then kind of got involved with us, and he suggested that it might be better to have a clean break from the name because, you know, we just lost the momentum with that. So he suggested one of our songs was called Sack then, and he suggested that as a strong kind of like simple name on a poster that would look good, you know. So we went with that, and then that's kind of when we started that in earnest.
It was kind of trendy to have one word names then as well, like Ride, and
Yeah.
you know, it was the kind of thing to do.
And this would have been late 80s, early 90s, I presume.
Yeah.
Yeah, 89.
Late 80s, yeah.
Yeah.
So You Wear What You Eat when was that released? In 94, wasn't it?
94, yeah.
That was the first album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you kind of, just prior to that, you were starting to get a good bit of attention in the UK, weren't you? NME made not the first single, but What Did the Christians Ever Do for Us, a single of the week, isn't that right? Or is that correct?
Yeah, in the Melody Maker and NME.
We released a 10-inch vinyl called
Dilettanti.
Dilettanti on Lemon Records. So basically what we did was
The tapes, yeah.
Old way, we kind of did a demo, and we went to London, a lot of us, and we kind of split up, and you know,
We took 10 packets each or whatever, 12 packets each.
And basically everyone went around and stuck an envelope in a record company's door,
Right.
and we waited for all the calls to come, you know. So anyway,
And it worked.
Lemon Records, who incidentally had Power of Dreams on their roster. Now they're only a small independent label, but they were very interested, so they wanted to release that as a 10-inch, as an EP, sorry, and it was much to our delight. It was made single of the week in NME and Melody Maker in the 1 week. So we started getting a lot of calls then, actually, and we'd no management at the time, and you know, look, you can kind of pinpoint, not mistakes, you know, but you can kind of pinpoint things that you could have done different, that would have taken in a different path, you know what I mean? Like, I think Nude Records that had swayed on them were very interested, and we were very kind of, now, you know, we want to stay with the small independent label that signed us, and all very loyal to that. And
Yeah.
you know, they kind of ran out of money after the first album, you know. So but we moved over to London, and we lived there for a year, and we had a great time.
Yeah.
Like, very exciting. Britpop was exploding then as well, and so we were gigging around a lot around Britain, and with a lot with Compulsion. Derek Lee, our bass player, his brother was in Jack Knife Lee, Gareth.
Yeah.
And we played a lot of gigs with them, and just around ourselves and all. But we had a great time, you know. So no regrets.
Yeah, and I suppose that you would have been a perfect fit for that Britpop era, wouldn't you? Jingly jangly guitar kind of stuff, and you know, kind of, I suppose in the mid-90s, that revival of guitar bands and the bass drum guitar singer type of setup. Do you think you missed out on that kind of problem?
There was only one problem: we weren't British.
Right. Okay.
I mean, that was, you know,
Irie pop didn't have the same thing to it.
So it's just, I mean, the whole Rule Britannia kind of thing was very much in evidence, and it was all about like British music, British fashion, British film, all that kind of thing. So like, they weren't really, you know, looking to kind of big up Irish bands, you know. I mean, that wasn't the reason why we kind of didn't progress to the next level and all, but it was. I mean, we were hanging around Camden at the time, and it was just full of bands, and
Yeah,
you know, they were all
the good mixer.
Yeah, good mixer. They were all able to fit into their little suits, you know.
Right. Yeah. And was there any kind of big gigs around that time in the UK supporting in that period? Did you support any bands like our singers at that time?
Not really, no.
It's a bit hazy, isn't it?
Not in England.
Shed 7 or something. We did a thing in the Astoria as well, which was a load of bands. We played with The Fall up in Sheffield.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Who else? I remember that band XCNN as well. We played around
Yeah.
England with.
We did the Phoenix Festival in England, and we played that Astoria thing was for you ITV's The Beat. Remember Gary Crowley used to
Yeah,
present?
yeah. It was a late night thing, wasn't it? Or
Yeah.
early morning
So
thing, yeah.
we played in the Astoria for that, around that and stuff like that. You know, we were kept busy enough, but
It just wasn't working out really in the UK.
it was just like there was just so many English bands around, like Blur, Pulp, Elastica, and
Menswear.
all out there, you know.
Yeah.
We rehearsed in the same place that Menswear and who else was rehearsing there in Camden. It was quite
Loads of bands.
spot the
Spot to be in.
it was great, yeah. But
So it must have been a really exciting time though, was it? You kind of mixing with what felt like the revival of guitar music, I suppose.
yeah, but it was kind of like, I mean, we didn't really realize that either. It was kind of just, we were just there, and it was just London to us, and it was vibrant, and we didn't see it as, well, I didn't really see it as like, oh, we're in a scene, or we were just being in a band and we were playing our music that we wrote, and it was great to be able to rehearse there and just be there at that time. But I don't think I was aware of it being
a scene
as such. I was just happy to, I was just happy to be on the label, and where Lemon Records was situated was in Food Records for Blur's label.
Right.
So, but we had to walk through Blur's office to get to our office, Lemon Records. There was always loads of free records,
right?
And that was really good for
And
for pilfering.
Right.
John Hall or something was a PR company. So there was always like
tons of boxes of new albums and new stuff. So you'd go in for a meeting and you come home with like
a stack of records
down,
your arm.
way down, yeah. Oh, here, 2 of them. Look at this one.
Oh, happy days.
I think Mark got into a bit of trouble with Food Records over it, but
taking
the pilfering paddies,
taking too many, yeah. And I remember the 90s as a teenager being a really good place for guitar bands in Dublin, and there was a lot of places to go and see bands. I remember going to see yous in the Ormond Multimedia Centre and places like that are now long gone. But, what was it like in the early 90s in Dublin, for you? Do you remember it being a good scene? I personally just always remember watching No Disco, and there's always loads of great Irish bands on it all the time, Do you have any fond memories of that period, or were you kind of oblivious to it?
Again, I was kind of a bit oblivious. We were just there, and we were in a band. All we were doing was writing songs, rehearsing, writing songs, playing gigs. We were just doing our own thing, writing our songs, and interested in seeing what's, it was so different then, to write songs. You had to go into a rehearsal room and plug it out for 8 hours, and it was just a way of life, really,
Yeah. Because there's a lot of venues now that I remember fondly going to see back.
Yeah, there was like Charlie's. Charlie's was a great venue in Angel Street, for like new bands.
The original Underground as well at the
Underground, of course, yeah.
The Funnel
and the Bag It In then, of course, was always there, and we played in the Bag It a lot.
The Attic a good bit in the 90s. Remember the Attic?
Yeah, upstairs, the White Horse upstairs. Yeah,
the New Inn and Charlie's and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the little small ones were great because they were really intimate, and you could kind of, there's no pretense attached to them, or
and there was Slattery's upstairs was always a big gig going place as well, wasn't it, back in the day?
Yeah, I don't know about we never really played Slattery's. Slattery was a more trad place, I thought, or would have been, wouldn't have been a rock place. Well, maybe kind of more mainstream rock. We didn't really consider ourselves mainstream at all.
Yeah.
Well, the 90s, around that time now, like the grunge scene had taken over a lot. So there was a lot of kind of like heavy kind of noise bands really was one of the main kind of driving forces. You know, so we weren't really in that scene, Kev.
Yeah.
We were a guitar band, but we had keyboards as well.
Yeah, that's another question I was going to ask you about the different lineups. What was the first lineup that you can talk to us about?
The first, well, Tony on drums, Tony Burton, me on guitar, Martin on vocals, Derek Lee on bass, and Simon Quigley on keyboards.
Right.
So basically, when we came back from London, there was Simon left then, didn't he, Martin? After London.
Yeah, yeah.
So we got a guitar player, Dave Dorgan, in.
Oh yeah,
So we
that's
used
where
to
Laughter
rehearse-
Lines came from.
Yeah, we used to rehearse in. My dad used to sell second-hand office furniture up in Parnell Street, and there was a room underneath that we kind of did up, you know, with carpet and cardboard, and we hit a kind of really productive vein there and done a lot of songwriting, and that's where like Laughter Lines came out of, and Sunny Day and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, the bones of Butterfly Effect, really. So
that was Butterfly Effect came out in 97, yeah?
that's right,
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So we did, that was with Dirt Records, owned by Shane and Brian O'Neill. Shane, of course, is in the Blue Evans, and
Blue in
Yeah.
Heaven.
yeah. And they had a studio down in the basement of
Space
the
28.
Space 28 down in Lots Lane there, near the
North
Bachelor.
Lots. Yeah. Behind The
So-
Bachelor.
Yeah, behind the Bachelor. So our producer for that album was Paul Tippler, who'd done all the Stereo Lab stuff.
Okay.
He came over from England for that, and Derek's brother Jackknife Lee was starting in production then as well. So, but when we arrived, the studio wasn't really built, so we spent the first kind of few days finishing that off, which kind of wasn't a great start.
Right. Did it take the momentum out of it a bit, maybe?
I don't know how that happened, really. I mean, when you look back in retrospect, like poor old Paul was like, you know, he thought he was coming over to kind of fiddle with the faders, and all he was doing was like fucking on his knees, putting down
Well,
taxi
Up
carpet.
to his neck and up to his neck and chipboard
Right, okay.
and
So
brick dust.
yeah, so it was kind of it was strange, but it was
There was also a couple of guys there who had a smaller studio, and they were involved for some reason. And there was a bit of argy-bargy going on between Paul Tippler and them. They weren't they, John? There was a few heads were knocking, and there was a bit of kind of a weird vibe, you know. But go on.
yeah,
Sorry,
no,
John.
it was strange setup, you know. I don't know how all that happened, but anyway, look, we got it done, and like it sounds very good for what it was, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Was that around 96 you started recording Butterfly Effect? Or was it 97?
97, I think. Yeah.
Right.
So
And it came out then that year as well.
yeah, 97, yeah. So that was about 5 years ago, was it?
Who knows at the moment? I don't even know what day it is today, for God's
Was
sake.
it the 50th anniversary of it we're celebrating? Anyway, yeah, so that was that album, and actually, was Dave Dorgan on that, man?
No, Adrian, was he? Adrian.
Trainer, yeah. David
Hey.
left in the meantime, then Kev
Yeah.
to form his own band, and we got a guy, Adrian Trainer, that used to live in your.
In my flat, I had a
House.
flat off South Circle Road, and in the flat above me there was a guy from the north, from Newry,
Right.
called Adrian Trainer, and he had a guitar, and I said, "Do you want to have do you play guitar?" Obviously, you play guitar, and he said, "Do you want to come in? We're kind of looking for a guitar player." So he came in, and he's a brilliant guitar player,
Yeah,
and he was on Butterfly Effects,
that's right. Yeah.
Latitude, and all them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, this is where we start the transferring season starts in earnest, Kev.
Okay.
We start to play swapsies around with guitars and basses and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that album came out, and we played a good bit around Ireland, and we support like Boo Radley's and all then, and like we were getting good supports in Ireland and festivals, and whatever, you know. But
Failure.
no, but like I mean, with zero money. I mean, Ireland was a very different place back then in terms of support for music. I mean, you had Dave Fanning, and that was it. I think Phantom might have been just starting around then as well, who were great, you know, but they were operating out of a shed, back garden, you know, so they were pirates, but
They didn't offer you sessions, like you could
yeah,
have, you
so
could
I
do a
mean, like,
session for Fanning, and
yeah. I mean, nowadays it's totally different. I mean, you've got all these networks and all, you know, organizations that promote music and they're out to kind of represent you and all. It was very different, you know, but and there was no, you know, you have to play a percentage of Irish music every week and or daytime on air and all that, you know.
Yeah.
So
It just felt though like there was always a gig to go to in Dublin in the 90s though, you know. There was always a guitar band knocking around trying to do something, you know. But the Rock Garden, I think, kicked off, didn't it, in the 90s?
yeah,
as well?
they were great gigs. The Rock Garden
Yeah.
gigs were great. Yeah,
it was brilliant. I mean, you were probably just young then, Kevin. You know?
yeah.
Different times, you know, there's loads of gigs. Well, there was. I mean, Dublin, this time last year in Dublin, I mean, you'd go to a gig every night, sometimes 2 or 3 of people that you'd like in the one night, you know. I think it's nearly oversaturation in the last while, you know,
Right.
pre-COVID. But when you're young and all, like you're in a scene and, you know, like you feel part of it, you know, so it's,
You got your gang of mates that go with you to the gigs or whatever, yeah.
yeah, well, especially exactly if you know people in bands and all, like that's the circles you're moving in and all, like it's great, you know. It's exciting.
Yeah. So you didn't really, I'm kind of guessing then from the sound of it, you didn't really feel like it was difficult, was it, in around that time for butterfly effect? It didn't seem to be, the momentum was going, or what was the story there? You were quite happy doing what you were doing, or?
Well, no, obviously you always want to have more money to do stuff and whatever, you know, but I mean, we're kind of just plodding along in a way, you know, just,
yeah. Without management as well, really, it's difficult. You know, you don't really, you kind of lose the, you know, you just think, you expect things to happen, but
Yeah.
yeah,
you know,
It's-
we've
yeah,
done the
that's
work,
it.
sort of, we've done this work, so we need something to happen. But
Yeah, because the songs are clearly there.
you
It's
need
just
management to be able to
to
push it,
plug
or
you, get
yeah,
you or
exactly,
to
yeah.
other places.
But we hadn't got.
Yeah. So what was the lineup around that late 90s then? Derek had left by that stage, I presume, had he? Or was he still? When did Derek go to London? It was in the 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, we had around 98 because then obviously after that, then Derek went to London, that's right. And then we got Daryl in from Sligo, who's unfortunately just passed away not long ago, a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so he joined us then. And then that coincided with our gig that we played in Whelan's where Mr. Morrissey was in the audience.
The famous gig.
Famous gig. So, I mean, Martin, do you want to tell what happened there?
We were supporting. Oh no, we were playing a gig in Whelan's, and we had a support band called Sunbear, and friends of ours, and one of the guys in Sunbear's fiance or girlfriend or something worked in their law firm in Stephen's Green, and Morrissey happened to be in Dublin using this particular law firm for some case or other. And she mentioned to him that her boyfriend's band were playing in Whelan's, and he probably said to her, "Is there any gigs on?" Her, she said, "Yeah." So he came along to the show to see Sunbear, but missed Sunbear.
Right.
And caught us. And when we were going on, someone said to me in the dressing room or something, you know, Morrissey's in the audience, and I was like, yeah, right. I thought it was they were messing. Then I came down, I stood on stage, and I looked down to my left, and he was standing right in front of me, you know.
Right.
And that was a bit nerve-wracking, you know. But we just did the gig, you know. That's what else could I do? But I DJ'd for years, so I happened to be DJing in a club called the Pod, which is quite near Whelan's.
Yeah.
So, but I lived literally around the corner. So after the gig, I went upstairs. Said, "See, I have to go to work. I'm late." Boy, ran around, changed me top, got me records, booted off to the Pod, and played a set for whatever till 3 in the morning or something. The next day, I rang John, or I rang someone and said, "Well, what's the story? What happened?" He said, "Well, Morrissey came up to the dressing room and he was saying he enjoyed the gig and all that, blah blah blah." So that was it really. It was a few weeks after that we learned that he was coming to play a gig in Dublin, was it? Or like a tour or whatever, and he was stopping in Dublin, and we kind of did, but back in the days of yore, there was a thing called a fax.
Yeah, yeah.
So we faxed off. I don't know how we even got to find his management company, or we faxed off saying, "Oh, thanks very much. You know, it was really nice to for you to come to the gig, and is there any chance we can play with you in Dublin?"
Yeah.
And literally in the space of a few hours, I think the fax came back saying, "I'd love you. I really love you. Used to play with me in Dublin, but also will you come to was it like Belgium and a few gigs or something?" And we kind of were all blown away with that. We did a little fundraiser because you have to buy onto a tour then,
Yeah.
Normally, if you're signed to a record company, the record company pays for that, but we hadn't got a record company, so we did a few fundraising things, and we managed to get some money. John's dad was very generous, and
You still owe that, by the way. You
still owe that, yeah.
When do I get me money back?
And we managed to get the money together. We went to the first gig was in Belgium, in Denze, a place called Denze, in the north. Is it the north of Belgium?
It was near Ghent. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we stayed in Ghent. We played in Denze, stayed in Ghent, and but after the first show, he was standing at the side of the stage, and he saw the crowd really loved it. We're into it, so that was a good judge for him to keep you or say good luck.
Yeah. Was that was 99? Was it the IS the band tour?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So, but after the I think it was after the first gig, he said that was really great, whatever. And he had a towel with a kind of a feather boa,
right,
sewn around it, and with Diva in big black letters written on the towel, and he put it around my shoulders.
Yeah.
From then on, that was it. No, he asked us to go to. Would you be interested in going to the States? Down in West Coast, San Francisco, and of course I said no. I'm washing my hair. Can't go to that. Can't do that.
You had hair. I can't remember when you had a quiff.
Yeah, when I had hair. Yeah. No. So yeah, it was really kind of a good little sus. Fax machines.
Yeah, that kind of I think brought you to a wider audience, didn't it? The Morrissey thing, because
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I remember the mayhem around that time, especially with you guys. And, I noticed that Morrissey fans can be quite harsh critics of everybody outside of Morrissey. And there'd been loads of other bands that people had liked, like Marion was one that I think always went down quite well.
Yeah, and Gene, did Gene play with them as
they
well?
did a few gigs as well. But I always remember the Sack always being mentioned as the band that nearly universally everybody loved. That because you did two tours with Mars, didn't you? So that's obviously a good indication as well. But the fact that the fans, I think, took to you more so than any other support band that I can remember. Anyway, you're still spoken about fondly. So it's obviously it was a turning point, I suppose. That first tour, was it?
Absolutely. It was the first time we'd ever played to that many people ever. It was really nerve-wracking, but also invigorating. It was amazing. We played in such beautiful venues like l'Olympia in Paris, and you were getting to play in stadiums, and
yeah,
it was just this is amazing. Great crack.
I think the Americans took to it in a big way as well, didn't they? Especially in the west coast of America.
Yeah. We played down the west coast, San Fran and Ventura, and strange places like Fresno. and San Diego, LA. That was the tour. It was about 10 gigs. Oh, Vegas, of course, was the last show. The last 2 shows in the House of Blues. That was just a treat, you know. Like Vegas. Well, if you've ever been to Vegas, it's fun. You know, if you're with your mates and you're single, it's fun.
Yeah.
And we had a great time there. Free room and free drinks and free everything, you know.
And then
And he threw a party for us at the end as well. Up on the roof, there was a big sort of roof terrace, and we had a party up there, you know.
Yeah, I think
go on.
Oh, sorry, I think he still speaks very fondly of you as a support band, you know, and obviously he was a big fan. So I think it was a match made in heaven, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the CD that he brought out with the NME Songs to Save Your Life?
Yeah,
that was a special free CD that came out with the NME one. I don't know when that was, but we were on that Colorado Springs along with like people like Klaus Naomi and Gene. I think we're on it. Like there was some great stuff on that.
The Libertines and people like that.
Yeah. Exactly. So, it was. I mean, the thing about that tour was we started off kind of like nervous little Irish boys, you know, but we came out of it like strutting around, you know, after doing so many gigs. But we weren't like a support band that just go on and do their thing. I mean, like Martin used to deconstruct Tony's drum kit at the end of every night. Jordan climb on Powerhouse and kind of throw it into the crowd. And like the people were going mad, you know, like it wasn't expected of us that a support band, you know, would kind of be so entertaining and so engaged with the crowd as well, you know. So they love that as well, you know. And so I mean, we got the crowd warmed up really well for when Maz came on. So I think the band and all really appreciated that, you know, you know, they were just great nights overall from start to finish. So
we got on well with the band as well. They were, you know.
Yeah. It felt like it was a whole package rather than just the local band from the local town were the support band for that night.
Yeah.
You know. And then he came back and played Vicar Street, didn't he, New Year's Eve or Christmas time or something like that at the end of that tour?
Vicar Street. Jesus. Were you at that, Kev?
I was, yeah.
We probably were, but I can't really remember. We did a gig in Vicar Street sometime, but I don't know, was it straight after that?
All right, okay.
Not sure.
Because it always felt to me like you seem to live in Whelan's. I mean, I think the most times I've seen you playing in the same venue was probably Whelan's. So it seemed that like Sack was just always on every Saturday night in Whelan's, you know. And I remember those gigs, you know, very fondly because there was a great gang of heads that seemed to follow you, like even in Dublin. And it's funny, John, you were saying there about Martin taking Tony's drum kit apart. There was bits where I remember Martin taking the hi-hat and walking around into the crowd while the songs were playing. And then you do that frozen man thing up on the stage and stuff like that. And it kind of felt different, you know? You felt
that's just a mask, you know. That frozen thing is just a mask. It's like, you know, a mask. It's
performance art.
Nerves, yeah, it's nerves. Well, it's nerves that just turned into something that people liked.
Yeah, because it just felt like
I was channeling my nerves.
It just felt like you were a totally different guitar band to all the other guys that, from the you know, just seemed to not interact with the crowd. There always seemed to be that like real connection with the fan base, you know. I felt so anyway, personally, and I think, you know, obviously there was a lot of your mates were at all the gigs in Dublin in particular, but you seem to have a really loyal fan base.
Yeah, well, I think, like when you play like that for 3 months, you know, and I mean, like when you're like, I remember one gig we did in the Cox Arena in San Diego. I mean, like that held like 15,000 people. I think it's a big place, so you kind of have to project yourself out, you know, that kind of classic, like an actor, you know, like you definitely
play to the back of the room. To the back of the room.
So you
have to be able to,
And when you're going down really well and all, like your confidence, it's like I always like, you know, kind of references to say football. I mean, when you're training every day, when that's your job and you're training every day and all, like you get really good at it, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, after that tour, like we were on fire, you know what I mean? Like we were really, really tight. I mean, we're always very tight, but like we were tight with the swagger then as well that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
And you know, like when you're doing that kind of stuff in front of 15,000 people and all, it's actually probably a little bit more intimidating coming back to the likes of Whelan's doing it.
It's hard. They're harder gigs. The smaller ones are harder because they're right, you know.
But we definitely felt we kind of jumped. But then, of course, again, the usual course of sack, you know, like poor old Ken, our guitarist, got tinnitus.
Yeah.
So had to sign off. So we were.
Oh, we forgot to talk about Ken joining after Adrian.
Oh yeah, Ken
Houghton.
Yeah. Lovely guy.
Yet another lineup change.
Yeah. Then when did Ken start? I'm not sure. Anyway, but he was obviously on the tour with us, but then he had to kind of leave because his ears were hurting him. So we had to get another guitarist, and then Daryl as well, the bass player, left. So we had a new guitar player and the Owen Rooney, his name was, and then John Murphy, and they did the second Morrissey tour with us, which was a European and UK and Ireland tour. That was in 2002, wasn't it?
Yeah.
2002. Yeah, is it?
Yeah,
right.
2002. And we played in Texas as well around that time at the South by Southwest, and we played a few gigs in New York as well around then with that lineup.
Mercury Lounge and Arlene Grocery.
Arlene's Grocery, you know.
Down the village.
Was there a bit of label interest in America around that time?
There was Sawyer Records, the American label. And anyway, we played, like, the Arlene's Grocery gig was a kind of an industry night, and people came to see us, but one of the band was kind of inebriated.
We won't say who, no.
Don't say who.
Well, we can't. Don't hear is Daryl.
Yeah.
Daryl, the bass player, was a little bit too excited. He got a bit too excited, let's say. That's all.
Actually, sorry. I'm lying about the lineup. Daryl was our bass player then still, but Neil Dixon was our guitarist.
Right,
in South by Southwest. South by Southwest.
That was Southwest, yeah.
In New York as well, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So that was before the second Morrissey tour, and then Daryl left then because actually I think we said good luck after making a bollocks of the showcase gig, and Neil was in another band anyway, the Voyeurs, at the same time. He was the lead singer, so he was just doing us a favor, really.
Yeah.
But, and then we got the other two lads in after that, and we did the Morrissey tour, and we recorded Adventure and Majestica after around this time as well. That came out on our own label, Jet Set Junta. So,
which is was a mini album, wasn't it? Really a full album.
Yeah.
7 tracks.
Here we come, the Jet Set Junta. Jet Set Junta is a monochrome set song. One of the influences, I suppose.
Yeah, I was going to ask you later on about your influences, but
that was more Laura John White kind of era.
Yeah, and
the orange juice and as the camera and all that,
So 90. This was around 91. Aventura Majestica came out, wasn't it?
No, 2000.
2001.
2001. Sorry, not 90. Not 91. Yeah, my mistake. Yeah.
2003 was it? That was one. 2001.
That was for the second Morrissey tour, I presume. Was it that mini album?
Did we have that as for sale? I'm trying to think.
I don't think so, man.
No, I think we only had Butterfly and You Are What You Eat for sale. We used to sell the CDs at the end. That's how I remember. Used to sell them at the end of the show when Morrissey was doing his last song.
Yeah,
we'd all leg it to the back of the hall at the exit with CDs and
the merch stand. Yeah,
we got a bit. Well, no, we hadn't even got a stand. We just stood with the and people sort of came up and wanted them signed, and that was great crack as well.
And what was the standout gig on the Morrissey tour for years?
Well, I loved playing in L'Olympia in Paris. That was such a classic play. I mean, to play on the same stage as Edith Piaf and, you know, everyone, Frank Sinatra, and everyone had played in L'Olympia, you know. It was a dream, you know. And I sang "I Love Paris," the opening, the opening line of the Cole Porter song. Yeah, it was just I remember it well because it was just the most beautiful venue. Yeah.
What about you, John?
Yeah, that was a standout. My mom and dad came over for that gig as well, and when I came off stage, I couldn't find them. You know, I was like, "Where the heck are they?" And then someone said, "Look, there they are. Right, they were right on the upper balcony, right in the middle. Like that's where they kept the two seats for them, the Morrissey crowd." So it was like they were in position A. You know, So obviously they were very proud seeing their children on that stage as well. But the venue and all, like amazing. Like
beautiful.
As Martin said, the history, you know, the Beatles, everyone played there.
Of course, yeah.
You know, so but in terms of gigs, the German ones were great as well. Like they were like we went
in Colombia in Cologne and Berlin and
I just
Columbia
remember kind of like going down really well in all of them. Like I mean, you were at some of them, Kev, weren't you?
I remember standing at the back of the stage, at the back of the venue, next to Marky Smith, and I remember just taking a double look. But I remember the crowd going mad for Sack, and I remember you standing right on the edge of the stage, Martin, giving it loads as you always do. But I mean, you know, I've been around the Morrissey thing for a long time, and I don't think I really ever seen the crowd taken to any other band that has been on tour with Morrissey more so than yours. You know, it's a testament to, I suppose, to use as a band, but also the songs still stand up. You know, like I'm obviously a big fan. So to me, from my musical tastes, and I suppose from the two of you as well, because I kind of know some of your influences, that traditional drummer, bass player, guitarist, lead singer lineup, and the way the songs are made, and a charismatic singer with a really powerful voice, it just ticks all the boxes, you know. And the fact that you're from Dublin as well is even better, you know. But
I tell you where. Thanks for that, Kev.
Thank you, Kev.
The one, I tell you where we did go down really well in the UK was the Barrowlands in Glasgow.
Oh, in Glasgow, yeah.
Oh, Jesus, yeah. We were, whatever the atmosphere was there that night, maybe because of the Irish thing or whatever, but like the atmosphere was amazing. Like that is a great venue though.
We played a couple of times there. Yeah,
we played a couple of times there.
The floor is sprung, so it moves. You know, when you're on the floor, you can feel the floor.
Right.
It's amazing. Yeah, really good. I went to see Camera Obscura there actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
The second Morrissey tour seemed to, you know, again, you know, to be asked on a second tour is usually a rare thing, isn't it, when you're supporting somebody like Morrissey? So that obviously must have been a good sign.
It was. You know, the one thing about the whole Morrissey tour was that, I mean, we were going down so well. Normally you get a bit of notice because of that. You know, I think it was just, you know, they say you kind of, if there's bad luck or good luck, you know, in the kind of music business or making or whatever, you know, but he didn't have any, he didn't have a deal himself.
Yeah.
He wasn't promoting a new album or anything. And so there was no media circus around it, no record company people around him or PR or anyone, you know, like if there had been a record company or PR company around him, I'd say word would have filtered back to, you know, all these people know each other. They would have said, like, Jesus,
you should see these guys, the crowd, they have the crowd in the hand.
Especially in America, you know.
Yeah.
That was
So
like in LA and all, yeah.
yeah, we lost. That was in one hand it was amazing, but on the other hand, we didn't really get anything from it that
Yeah.
you'd expect from a tour. Like if we'd have went on the tour with him when he was promoting Irish Blood, English Heart, it would have been a different story.
You probably could have got a deal off the back of that, I suppose, with Sanctuary Records at the time. Maybe is that what you think?
Something,
Yeah.
management or an agent or whatever, something. Just like, I mean, he was kind of, I won't say persona non grata. I mean, all his shows were selling out, but like, there was no reviews on any of the newspapers or anything really.
Yeah.
Whereas
It was almost like a secret. Look, we're doing it a secret now. We're going
But
to play.
these are big.
Everyone's going to
gigs.
enjoy it, but no one's going to do it about it.
Yeah.
And these are big shows, like like you say, the 15,000, 20,000 people, and they're sold out.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was.
So that was the weird thing about it. Whereas a few years later, with as I say, when he had the album out, like remember it was all Morrissey is God again, and everywhere there was huge kind of media circus around them. They were hanging on every word. But it just, when we were with him, there wasn't that at all. You know what I mean? So that was very strange.
It was just the click and the cult following and enjoying everything, enjoying the gigs. Yes, brilliant, but
the timing of it just didn't seem to sit right, I suppose, was it? So a bit
just unfortunate,
Yeah.
Them's the break, Kev.
Yeah, unfortunately, isn't that the case? And then I suppose, obviously, we touched on the highs of playing in those big gigs around the world. And I'd kind of said that, like, it felt like Sack were in Whelan's all the time. But is there any standout Irish gigs yourselves that you felt,
The Olympia gigs and the ambassador gigs with Morrissey were pretty amazing. Then again, they're just historical venues in Dublin, and it was nostalgic. It was not nostalgic, but it was a great honor to play in places like that. Places that you've gone to all your life to see other bands, and then you're suddenly on the stage.
Yeah.
In that Olympia show, like, that was a real kind of homecoming, and like the place was packed for that when we came on at 8, and during the last song, Climb, instead of Martin taking apart the drum kit, he done a headstand, and the crowd went mental.
I saw the last part of the gig upside down, basically.
You were wearing a silver cowboy hat, weren't you? If I'm not mistaken.
No. Never wear a cowboy hat. Tony Burton wears cowboy hats. The drummer.
Yeah.
No, I was wearing no hat. I don't think that. But I always remember the stage in the Olympia is slightly slanted as well. It goes slightly slanted, and I didn't realize that until I tried to do a headstand.
Right.
So I had to kind of balance myself, do a sort of get my legs sort of slightly that way.
Could you do it now?
I don't know. I haven't tried it. I'd have to have a hell of a padded towel or something under my head for all these COVID calories.
So, I touched on obviously the home gigs, and there was always a real hardcore following that seemed to go to every show. Seemed to be always a group of familiar faces that were always at the shows, whether they be the Funnel down on the Quays or Whelan's or the Grand Social. Was there? Did you feel like there was a good following outside of Dublin as well, or was it just always, you're a Dublin band, so you had that crew with you all the time? Tough question.
We didn't have a strong following outside Dublin, really. I would have to say.
Because we didn't play that much, other than those supports,
We weren't championed by Hot Press for certain. You know what I mean?
Why do you think that is?
Why do I think that?
I think they were a bit afraid of us. They were afraid of me.
And I
they didn't know what to make of me, because I didn't play guitar and just stand and play a few chords and sing.
Yeah,
I did a few odd things, and I don't think it's a bit like Peru. Like, I mean, how do you, he's a bit scary, isn't he, David Thomas? You'd be shitting to meet him, that kind of. I think that's what Hot Press were afraid of me or something. I always
Right.
got that feeling.
Yeah.
And was there any other bands around that time, even in the 90s, that you admired, like obviously
In Dublin?
Power of Dreams? Yeah, in Ireland, like Micro Disney or Fatma Mansions or any of those types of
Yeah.
bands.
Yeah,
Rollers
obviously
Get
Fatman
Skinny.
Mansions. Yeah, Rollers Get Skinny. Yeah, of course. Again, totally different, sort of very quirky songwriting.
Yeah.
Not your average 3 chords and a trick and just a bit different. Obviously, Cahill,
Great songwriter.
brilliant. Look, just you don't know what's coming next. His new stuff is really good as well. Have you heard his new
No,
bits?
I haven't. It's coming out though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there's 2 tracks out already. Well, up online, I've heard Owl in the Parlour, I think, and the first one, the song of Co Ackland or something.
Right.
Yeah. I heard that.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, that voice, it's his voice, is the distinctive voice of Carl Coughlin. Will never be boring.
And what about influences? What would you say were your main influences as a
That's
kid?
hard. That's very hard to say. As a kid, growing up.
Well, what influenced the sax sound? Because I hear lots of Orange Juice in it, and I hear,
Yeah, well,
a lot
I
of that
think-
80s post-punk kind of
Oh,
Goblet of wine.
a goblet, a
Look at that.
Barolo.
would it be?
I
Kev,
think.
you'd sack your barman if he filled the glass up that high, wouldn't you?
Oh, shocking! Yeah, the air wouldn't breathe on that wine, But
Twice the price. Twice the price.
what were the influences of Sack? Before I ask you, what are your influences?
That's kind of hard to say because when you're in a rehearsal room and you play a song, for instance, it's hard to sort of you kind of try and be somebody, but it always ends up sounding totally different. That's what I always found anyway. If we tried to have a Joy Division beat or something, it didn't turn out like a Joy Division beat because Tony would put his own flair on it. If John played a few chords and we said, oh yeah, that sounds a bit like such and such, it would still turn into him. You know what I mean? It's not like we were trying to be Echo and the Bunnymen or be New Order or we were. It's hard. It's a
hard one to answer, yeah. Because I suppose for me anyway, I think you fit very comfortably alongside bands like the House Martins and the Smiths and Orange Juice, and you would fit into that category for me of a very traditional big guitar pop band, indie pop band. Would that be?
Yeah.
Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd take that. Kev. Ken Hart, I'm looking at my phone here.
So what were your early influences then as a young kid getting into music, Martin, for you?
Well, starting out like buying singles, obviously that was the biggest thing. Blondie singles at the start. Then kind of the beat, the Specials came along, and the whole ska, the English ska thing. And then after that, I suppose, like Depeche Mode and electronic stuff going on, Yazoo and all that sort of new romantic, but not so much. I didn't like Duran or that sort of girly end of it. It was a bit more. I was more interested in the music,
Yeah.
And then of course I was really into the whole Scottish thing, Aztec Camera and Orange Juice and. Factory Records, Manchester, the whole label really, was really kind of influenced me in a sort of more of an attitude as well, like Barney from New Order. I always kind of try to style myself. Not that I would look anything like Barney singing in New Order, but that's who I thought I was when I was starting to sing. But you look at me and you go, no, I wouldn't say he would have thought he was Barney from New Order. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it turned into something else, which was my own thing. So I mean, I always had him in my mind that to kind of cut it through the nerves, and going on stage I'm going to pretend I'm Barney from New Order.
Right.
But, you know, it's like, you
So,
know, you don't
so a
look
lot
even a bit like him.
that Manchester movement obviously had an effect on
Yeah, the factory records, from the artwork to like just the attitude, you know, and you know, it post punk, I suppose. You know, I was a little bit too young for punk, maybe, you know.
you. Right.
So I would, you know, ska was the nearest to, you know, I would have discovered punk a bit after that, you know.
Yeah. So obviously
Um,
Joy Division would have been a big thing for you as well.
yeah, yeah, I love Joy Division. I love the, you know, the Unknown Pleasures, that album and Closer. Were always just very quite dark, you know. It was kind of the first music my ma wouldn't let me play loud.
Right. Okay.
She'd let me play Bob Marley loud, but she wouldn't let me play Joy Division loud. So it was kind of like, or the Clash. I always remember playing the Clash, and she went mental. Turn it down. But if I was playing Bob, like I loved Bob Marley and the Wailers as a kid as well. You know,
Yeah.
the whole reggae thing and ska.
But the dark stuff you're probably your mother thought was all
Yeah, she just didn't like the
not a good
imagine,
thing for a teenager to be listening
imagine Blair and like Unknown Pleasures now. New Dawn Fades, you know, Jesus.
to.
Not exactly a Sunday morning, yeah. Yeah, not good, no. So, yeah, no, I just loved the way they were recorded and the whole mysteriousness behind it. Like, there's no pictures of the band and what's going on, and there's a
Yeah.
whole. You had to kind of find stuff. Then it wasn't just going online and say, "Oh, Joy Division, I have a million things." You had to kind of find out about stuff, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, obviously
To
there
the
was
Enemy or
Melody Maker and Enemy were
yeah.
weekly newspapers back
You
then.
had
weren't
to,
they?
well, you had to go and physically, you know,
Track the stuff down. Yeah.
exactly. And then I suppose, you know, the Everything But the Girl crew came along and all that sort of, there was more style involved as well, little beards and nice shaved heads and
Yeah.
corduroy jackets. And it was all kind of to do with fashion as well. I suppose drinking in town.
Right.
We all drank in the Pygmalion and Bartley's and Champers. All these
Right.
pubs were just young, you know, right? You were in our teens. We were.
And obviously the Smiths must have been a big thing as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And the Smiths, I saw the Smiths twice in the SFX, and I went and met Morrissey actually
Right.
back in after. It was around the time he gave out about Thatcher.
Right. Okay.
And myself and Paul Condon, a friend of mine, we bunked off school and we went in to hear, could we hear the sound check, you know, and we heard the little bit at the end of the sound check. Not in the venue, now outside the venue.
Yeah.
And then we went to the gate. There was a little gate beside the SFX, and then Morrissey and Johnny Marr just appeared, and I had my school bag, and I got my copy, and he signed the copy, and
So it must
that
have
was
been
it.
a dream come true then when he was a fan.
Absolutely,
when he
like,
was a fan of the
yeah.
band. Asked you to
But
go on tour.
incidentally, I had actually met him in Virgin Records. There was a signing. He was signing Southpaw. And I kind of went to that sort of signing, and my mate Elaine, actually Derek's cousin, is she? Or
Yeah.
she worked in Virgin, and there was a huge queue down the quays, and Elaine saw me, and she rushed me up the front, and I gave him a copy of our first album, You Are What You Eat, and but that was it. It was just like, here, thanks, sign that boy,
Yeah.
you know. But then that was a kind of a lead in after he had seen us, and when I sent the fax, and it was like, you have our first album, yeah, well, that was us, by the way, you know. But John has loads of influence as well, you know. So,
Well, obviously John's, you know, the director of the internationally renowned Bowie Festival now. So I'm guessing obviously Bowie's a huge influence for both of you, but you in particular, John, yeah.
not necessarily me, no, but John
Oh,
would have
okay.
introduced me to Bowie, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but I wouldn't really say I was a Bowie fan, you know.
Okay, right. But for you, John, obviously it's a huge.
I just don't
That's a crazy statement to make altogether. You know, you're dead to me now, Maxie.
They used to slag.
I like Young Americans.
Now,
I
whatever.
like Young Americans, and Hunky Dory's great, of course. But you can't say that about Tin Machine without blushing.
Yeah.
Well, the floor is yours, John.
No, well, obviously, like, you know, I'm a Bowie kind of nut, but there's no way you couldn't listen to any of our songs and pick out kind of Bowie influences
Yeah.
in there, you know. So look where that got me. You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, like the first band I loved was ELO and the Beatles. That very kind of pop sound with strings and orchestras and all. I love that. And then like I got into I was never a big, huge punk fan, really. I was probably, again, just a little bit, like, give me the Calamity Jane or Seven Brides for Seven Brothers soundtrack over, like, some of the punk records any day. Like, I'm a bit like that, you know. But then the Specials on the Beat, when they came along, like, I loved them. Madness and stuff like that, all the two-tone stuff. The Jam, brilliant band. You know what I mean? Like, all that. They were great. And then Echo and the Bunnymen, Prefab Sprout, love. You know, but like, I can't say any of them kind of influenced me, really.
John was saying about Bowie. Look, our songs not sounding like Bowie, but John always brought in the sort of Bowie aesthetic into his own songs with like changes and stuff, changes in the songs. I mean, so just making really like weird chords, and that all came from Bowie in John's head, you know.
Yeah.
So that was kind of very important for the whole band, you know, as opposed to just doing a cover of Queen Bitch or something, or you know, it was. The aesthetic, the whole idea of what would Bowie do next, you know,
right?
In John's head. So it was great. It was very important for Sack for the Bowie.
But I loved Tom Waits as well, around Swordfish Trombones, Rain Dogs, all that kind of stuff, and Captain Beefheart as well, Per Ubu, you know,
brilliant.
Kind of like there was a time, kind of probably towards the end of Lord John White, where stuff was very dissonant, very, very discordant. You know what I mean? It was kind of, Martin was singing with a megaphone and stuff like that. And percussion and brass, and it was all very.
Just trying not to be the normal band.
Yeah. Like there was no one like us back then. Like around kind of 89, 90. We were like,
everyone was either trying to be U2 or the next Nirvana, I guess, or you know, that kind of thing. And you seem to always have that melodic kind of sound. And obviously Martin's.
It's because I was singing songs, you know. I was singing, you know. Like, as someone said, Frank Sinatra fronting the Pixies or something. That's what they describe.
That's a great description, I think, though. Do you not think so?
Yeah, well, I remember it, and it was kind of, oh yeah, that's kind of good, you know.
We all loved the Pixies as well around that time, you know.
Kind
of like quiet and burst of noise then as well, and
I couldn't quite manage the screamy thing though. I can't really scream, you know. I can sing all right, but I can't really scream or shout. Well, we have a few songs like Colorado Springs, and that was kind of the rant, you know, the attitude rant, you know. Which
and did you you kind of said that it was a bit more of a nervous thing, bringing in the kind of little theatrical things you brought on stage, like obviously.
When I say nervous, I mean just it's hiding. I was hiding, you know. It's hiding behind a mask. It's like you know, everyone's looking at you, you know. So what do you do? do you try and be normal, or you know, do you just try and turn it into something? And when you do something and you see people are enjoying it, you kind of go, okay, this is actually all
this
right.
is working, in
your own head. But I don't know what I'm going to do, you know. It's very off the cuff, you know.
Spur of the moment.
Yeah, mostly, I might think about it before the gig. What can I do here at the end? And you know, like at the New Year's Eve 2008, I think I have to do something simple, you know. So the A4 sheets, you know. Make 2008 out of them, like origami, or you know, and make it on the stage. And then it's like, who else would have done that? No, it's just. I'm not saying blow me on trumpet. I'm just saying it's something to sort of take away from just the being in a band, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, because they're playing an instrumental piece. What am I to do? To stand there and look cool with the mic, or I'm not. I don't feel cool, so.
I remember you always used to do that little thing with the little Casio keyboard.
That's it again, hiding behind something, you know. It's like if I had a guitar, I would have been playing a guitar, but I didn't have a guitar, so you have to hide. I was hiding behind something, you know.
I suppose they're standout things that kind of set you apart from the rest of the other bands
Yeah,
around Ireland at
absolutely.
that
Yeah,
time.
and the fact that I sang as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, that's for me personally, and I think for loads of other people as well, you know, a big thing that you had a very powerful voice, and you know, it was all about the songs and John's songwriting, and then, you know, your voice, I think, were two great combinations that really worked, you know. So
Thanks,
do you feel no problem? Do you feel that you know, a little bit let down that you weren't taken more notice of or more seriously, or was it just them's the breaks?
The funny thing is that probably amongst their kind of peers at that time, maybe they just didn't get it or something. Like, I mean, the people that are on radio now, like Dan Hegarty and not like, are champions of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of in our absence, are kind of like the kind of absence make the heart grow fonder, but like are kind of stuck amongst, like, obviously Dan was a young guy seeing us, you know what I mean, and we impacted him because he's always like
Championship, yeah,
and stuff like that, you know, and he champions us a lot and still plays us all the time, and which is great, you know. Like, at the radio DJs and journalists at the time didn't, you know what I mean, whereas the younger ones kind of are now.
Yeah, taking notice.
So it's like, we weren't ahead of our time and all, that'd be a bit too presumptuous or pretentious, but we were kind of, we never fit in to what was ever going on at the time, really, you know. We're always kind of a step ahead.
Yeah.
Without, you know, we weren't like the future or, you know, coming up with this brand new sound, but we were never in that kind of like
fashionable bracket. Would that be
fashionable? Yeah, we weren't kind of in the clique at the time or whatever. It's just that we didn't kind of play that media game, you know. We didn't hang around in the Pink Elephant or Lilies or anything like that. Or we didn't.
But then do you not think the songs might stand the test of time because of that?
Yeah, well, I think they do, because like, people are only like, that's what I'm saying, are like, judging by the kind of reaction on social media to like the session we did before Christmas, and just still now, like, I'm still seeing messages everywhere and people sharing stuff in various little Irish rock music groups, you know, saying how much they love us and stuff like that.
So there's still life in the old dog, yeah? Is that what you're saying? Hopefully.
Oh yeah, Kev.
Obviously, you were talking about Joy Division and the fact that they weren't on the sleeves and it was always some sort of weird artwork. Is there an aesthetic idea for you when doing the sleeves? Because obviously the 3 Sack albums don't have a picture of the band on them at all. What was the idea behind that, or was it along the lines of don't put the band members on the front? Was that
I think we would have thought that looked stupid. I think, like, us on the front of the album, it was always, I wanted it to be a bit more mysterious or something, I suppose, you know. The first record, You Are What You Eat, was done in London. I remember we had the ideas, all right. Remember, like, I didn't do graphic design then either. It was like, there was a guy we got, Lemon Records got him to do it. So we were asking him, we want this and this and this. So we were quite sure, like, John, weren't you, about, you know, You Are What You Eat to do with the brain. Do you not remember now? He's looking like he's bewildered there.
My brain is frazzled.
I remember being involved in it more, I suppose. So it was, we were trying to come up with an idea, like, You Are What You Eat. Like, there's no point in putting a burger or something on the cover, or, you know, whatever. So it was to do with, you know, You Are What You Eat. So you are yourself. So there was a brain involved anyway. I always remember.
Okay.
So we, you know, it took so long to find a picture of a brain that was dissected. You couldn't again go online and go, there's a brain. We had to fucking find a brain that was dissected.
In a
Excuse my
library
language.
of
Yeah, I don't know where we even ended up
medical
finding it.
books or something. Yeah.
Yeah, we ended up, I don't know where, and then just it was the whole, you know, you what font do we use, and it was all a very learning experience, you know. The second album was done. I was starting to do a bit of graphic design then, and layout and stuff, and I had one of the first cameras that you could actually plug into the computer, you know, a little. So it took the photograph, and it was very grainy and very lo-fi, you know. That was a thing as well. Then lo-fi things were good, you know.
And then obviously with What Did the Christians Ever Do, which is obviously a huge song that I think a lot of people associate the band with.
Yeah, that kind of came about when we played the Rock Garden late. We always think that the birth of that song was when we played the Rock Garden. There was a Rock Garden in Crown Alley.
Yeah, which later became Eamon Doran's, of course.
Yeah, there was an early gig and a late gig. And the band who played the early gig was Stereolab. So we saw Stereolab for the first time. And I couldn't believe that they were just playing one chord, you know, which was their interpretation of krautrock, which I wouldn't have even been aware of, Can and Neu and all those German bands.
Yeah.
And the next day, I think we were rehearsing. We played the late gig. So Stereolab played, they were on at 8 o'clock or something, and people bought tickets. And then when that gig was over, everybody emptied out. Or else, were they allowed to stay in?
I think they were allowed to stay, yeah.
Okay, so they were allowed to stay in, and then we went on then, the lake after midnight or something. And there was a DJ, Steve Robinson, I think, was playing. Yeah, but yeah, I remember seeing Stereolab and going, oh my God, like the Moogs and just the one chord and that repetitive thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then the next day in rehearsal, John, like play G, just G. And we tried to copy it really, you know?
It's because it's a really powerful track. I mean, you know, everyone seems to go mad when that song starts, you know? And I've a fond memory of seeing you in, well, it's changed names a few times, but it was the Music Centre.
Oh yeah, Temple Bar Music Centre.
Temple Bar Music Centre, and you had Charlton Heston in the chariot race on the screen.
Race, yeah, that's John's idea, yeah.
When
the chariot race at the end. No, that was Powerhouse, was it at the end?
Powerhouse, yeah.
But it's a really powerful song. Still stands up, I think. But
I tell you, I haven't heard it loud and proper in a long time, because any gig we've been doing lately have been acoustic, so I haven't heard that full on chord, you know. G by the way, yeah.
Did you not
Kids.
do it at the Electric Picnic?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So obviously there's an aesthetic interest for you as well with the band, with obviously, you know, showing kind of like those old videos of Charlton Heston on the backdrop, and you know the artwork. Is there the aesthetics an important part for you?
Yeah, well, for me it was always was, yeah.
John?
Yeah, well, I mean, like we started like those music center gigs. I mean, like you had a huge screen there, and like we showed, there were just snippets of films.
Louis Buñuel, were they?
Yeah,
Louis Buñuel slicing up eyeballs.
And we got people to play. Like this was kind of pre-digital age as well, where you could do it like that now, you know.
Yeah,
we had to get a videotape and kind of line it up and kind of pause and then have it going, you know, have someone up there doing that, and like it was kind of tough work, but it looked great, you know.
Yeah,
like that, you know.
It looked amazing.
House that kind of, because it's like a gallop towards the end, and the chariot race from Ben Hur and all, like it really added to it, you know.
Yeah, it's a million miles an hour song as well. It's a real builder, you know. It's an amazing song, you know. So what's next for the band then? What's the next chapter of SAC? What's going to happen next?
Well, I mean, obviously things have been very sporadic and, laid back since 2003. But I suppose people started working then. I mean, I started moving into the kind of gig promotion thing around the kind of mid 2000s, and started working in the Hub and Thomas Reed's and Pravda and the Odessa Club, and then on to the Grand Social, then whatever. So got married, had kids, all that kind of crack, so that all took precedence, and hadn't worked for a long time, so that had to be done. So I mean, like as I said, we've been doing the odd
Christmas gig,
then whatever, but but it's funny, as you've pointed out and all, like people still remark, we haven't gone away at all, like
there's been no official announcement of called it a day.
There's still a kind of like an admiration, I think, for us bubbling under there, you know what I mean? And I think most of that has to do with Martin's voice, because it's like, it's been great Irish bands and all, but like Martin is a different level of a singer, and I'm sure, as everyone points out on social media or when they're talking to you, you know what I mean? So
we love playing together as well. So it's not a case of we fell out in any way, We love, once we get on the stage, we love playing with each other, I don't mean that in a sexual
and
no sexual connotations.
But I mean, what's happened over the last while is that, like, I've been very busy up until the lockdown basically closed down the industry that I was working in, so it meant I've time on my hands now. I haven't loads because at the moment I'm doing homeschooling and whatever.
Is it true that the match is different in Ireland? Someone's saying that they do maths differently here.
My two kids go to a Gael school as well, so they're taught in Irish.
Oh, mother of jeez. Endo 3. Car divided by Killig.
Lucky enough, Rochelle is
good.
Gael. She does most of it.
Oh my God.
I do the cooking and all, Jordan.
I seen a video of you hanging out with some electrical hoist or something. We doing roofing or something at one stage.
Oh yeah, I was doing the gutters and painting. That was great crack.
So you're homeschooling at the moment, anyway. You were saying.
Oh, well, the kids are at home, so like this. Yeah, it's hard to find pockets of free time, But anyway, no one's been working really in the band, so except for Ken, I suppose the only one has, and he works in Wimmel Lane Studio. So I suppose everyone's a bit bored as well, and like is up for doing something. And like there's people like Dan Hegarty and all who are constantly, pushing us on the radio. And
any new songs?
Well, whatever. I'm playing the old stuff, and people, we did that thing in the Grand Soul before Christmas, and like loads of people watched it and commented on it and all. So like that's what I was saying. Like people are obviously still into the band, and I'd love to bring out another record, and I'd be happy doing 5 or 6 gigs a year, just nice ones, and just whatever, where you stay in a hotel and driven down.
And not sleeping in the back of a van. Yeah.
Whatever. But anyway, or whatever. But like it never leaves you anyway, I know some people just kind of, they put down their guitar and just say they never go back to it now, but like we're all too, like, I mean, Martin's a DJ for years, and one of the best DJs ever in Ireland as well, you know what I mean? Not just a DJ, like whatever, one of dance music pioneers and whatever, and still earns a living from that, well, whatever, like still it's an income. Tony DJs as well, like.
So there's definitely a few new tunes in the pipeline. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but we're like we eat, breathe, and live music.
Yeah,
we're not just in a band. I mean, like every book I read, every time I put on my headphones, I listen to podcasts a lot, but they're all about music. You know what I mean? They're not about politics or film. They're about music. So that's that's kind of who we are and all, you know. So I don't know, like I'd love to do
A new
something.
record.
I mean, we're probably, there's big talk about release and re-release and Butterfly Effect on as a vinyl,
Yeah.
because no, that hasn't been done, you know. And then you've seen the success of the Revelino reissue and stuff like that, so that's probably
I definitely think that there's a real interest, especially for some of the records that were only ever released on CD, to be released on vinyl, and I think that might be could maybe introduce you to a new audience as well, you know.
Well, it's like look at all these blues men, right, in from New Orleans and Memphis and all back in the 30s, and they were, you know, they were big in their kind of own circles, and then they kind of disappeared for 20 or 30 years, and people like John Hammond and, you know, brought them back to life, but they never went away, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They got a second wind and they recorded albums, and people like Muddy Waters recorded albums up until he was 90, and you know there was no expectation of, you know, having hits around, but
you do it because it's in you to do it, and it's you don't stop doing creative things because there's a global pandemic. You can't. It's like that thing with the advertising campaign in the UK where it's like Martin's next job will be as a hospital porter. He just doesn't know it yet. It's like you know, patronising kind of
wouldn't mind it.
patronising approach to it. Whereas, you know, if you're creative, whether it be in an artistic way with design or interior design or promoting gigs or plays or acting or writing songs and being in a band, I think that's always going to be there with you, isn't it? So
yeah, and the pandemic has given me personally the breathing space to be able to not work and write songs like that have been threatening to for ages, and kind of, oh yeah, I will, and then just life got in the way, and especially work, running a venue and stuff like that is 24/7 kind of stuff.
And the Bowie Festival is obviously a big part of your life as well.
Yeah, no, that's something I really enjoy now, but like not as much as playing myself. Like, you know, like running the Grand Social or Bloody Marys or doing the Bowie Festival, like I'd give all of them up to be back on the road with Morrissey again, playing in front of 10,000 people. No
So
problem.
what you're telling me is that there is some new sax songs in the pipeline.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'd have to bring
what everybody wants to hear. And maybe a couple of re-releases at some stage on nice big shiny plastic discs.
Yeah, well, I mean, the session we did in the Grand Social as well, the acoustic, like, I mean, that went down. I'd love to record some of them songs with maybe a bit of orchestration and acoustic and let Martin's voice kind of shine. I mean,
oh yeah, that'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
Like the songs Laughter Lines and Sunny Day, and like, you know, people know them in Ireland, but only our fans. I mean, they deserve to be heard further than that. You know what I mean? I think a really nice version of them.
I see it before my very eyes. A best of Sack record on vinyl, right? And the extra disc is the best of Sack orchestrated.
You're giving them too much.
Double clear vinyl, gorgeous.
Well, green, I think.
Gatefold sleeve.
For some reason, the color green I always associate with Sack. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the two first albums have green in the sleeves or something. I don't know what it is about green and Sack.
Yeah, but green vinyl is very punk rock, Kev.
It could be bottle green. It could be bottle green.
Bottle green would be nice. Yeah. Is there such a thing as bottle green vinyl? I don't think I've ever seen it.
It could be a first.
Yeah.
But you know, going back talking about some of them gigs on the Morrissey tours, I think personally there would still be a big crowd there for you if you were to do a mini tour of the UK or to do some mainland European gigs. Or obviously,
you need money, Kev. Where's the money? Show us the money. We'll do happen if you show us the money.
Paul Conlon got a big fee for doing that television advert. Surely he must have a few. Bob.
Yeah, he's fucking off. Get him off the telly, will you? Get him off the telly. Every time
Sponsored by Positive Life.
he's in my ear every.
Kev,
And there's 2 versions of it now. See that?
I
There
haven't
is.
seen that, no.
Is.
Kev, sell the Thomas house on finances. Well,
Gladly.
Yeah, it all sounds great, and we'd love to do it now. But there is a small, a large fact of that. There's no
record
to do all
label.
that. You need money to do all that, to do tours and to do, you have to put up 5 people and get us all over there, get us all over the. It's money.
Yeah.
So,
But there's still an audience there for you, I think, now.
I imagine so. Like, I mean, if you're actually talking about the Morrissey fans, they remember us, and they would make the effort to go to the gigs, I'm sure. And their mates, whatever, and with a bit of PR behind it, it'd be great. But again, it's money.
All about the spondulies, yeah.
Money to do that, Trying to
lads,
survive.
I think we're going to have to wrap up this fascinating insight into the history of SAC.
We could go on for hours, Kev.
It's been an absolute pleasure, I have to say.
Thank you.
It's been a great insight into some of the other little bits that people probably don't know too much about. So, big thank you for my guests this evening on the Alternative Hit Parade. John, thank you very much.
thanks, Kev.
Martin, always
Thank
a
you,
pleasure.
Kev.
Always a pleasure.
Likewise.
And I think we will look forward to some new news maybe later in this year. Who knows? But
Any
once
chance
again,
of locking in, Kev?
they're illegal. I couldn't possibly condone that.
We
On
need
air.
somewhere to rehearse, Kev. We need somewhere to rehearse in the basement. Yeah.
You can always rehearse in the basement. That's always.
There you go. There you go, John. Masks on.
It's a
masks
done deal.
on.
It's a done deal.
Leave the taps connected.
Yeah. A masked rehearsal.
John, Martin, from SAC, it's been a pleasure. Cheers.
Thanks, Kev.
Thank you, Kev. See you soon.